Kaiju fans, acknowledge us. We are the undisputed, longest running Kaiju podcast on the internet. Go, go, Kaiju Show, where we have a healthy obsession with Kaiju. Welcome to the show. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host, Jason. And I can't really hear you much because you had it way too close to your mouth there. So it's going to have to auto adjust there for a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I just thought I'd do something a little bit different this time. Yeah, that was a little different than usual. I am different. So I have been ostracized from a lot of places just because I am different, which there's a lot of discrimination in this country. So that's why you're in Michigan. But Michigan's been friendly to me, I will say that. But we are doing 1998's Kraa, done by the same Monster Island Productions that did Zarkorr that we covered here like 2 weeks ago now. Gosh, hard to believe it's been 2 weeks already. You've seen it yesterday as of this recording. You have, yes. For me, I saw it like 4 or 5 days ago myself. But yeah, we're going to cover that. Probably another short podcast as a result. Yeah. But before we get into the discussion of Kraa, Jason, any home? Just want to say, if you're watching us on YouTube or wherever, if you see a subscribe button down below or above wherever you're watching us, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as smash the like button. And the one thing I want to point out too, I don't know if you've seen an article on this, that seems like the Nerdist has reported that they Legendary Pictures has found the new director for the next Godzilla Kong sequel. I forget the name of it. I think the movie is I Am Mother is the one most people recognize him for. Yeah, I have not seen that nor any of his other movies, so I have no comment. But I've heard from some people that I've heard from some people say that the Monsterverse is in good hands with the next installment. Okay, let's see here. Grant, I'm probably going to be butchering his last name. Sputor. S-P-U-T. Yes. S-P-U-T-O-R-E. I'm going to say Spudor. Yeah. So that's probably the only biggest piece of news that has come across so far regarding to the whole Monsterverse. So that's all I've got, unless if you've got anything else, or just dive right in and get by the time this podcast gets released, it'll already have been out for like a week. But Godzilla X Kong New Empire is coming out in 2 days on home video. So I'll pick that up. I almost completely forgot about that. I am excited. When we talked about it, 2 months ago when we did that show, I knew what I was getting into with that particular film, a Showa-like type of film. And I had a blast with it. Is it the best movie in the Monsterverse? No. But is it fun? Hell yeah. And I've been looking forward to that. And speaking of which, I know when we meet each other, hard to believe is going to be a month away from G-Fest here. Less than a month until I actually see you now, actually. Well, no. The 8th. Yeah, the 8th. From yesterday, yeah. I'm thinking about buying the digital copies of Godzilla -1, both the colored and then the black and white version. So then, like, if we want to watch it, then we have it right there. Okay, yeah. Even though it's just digital and not home video, because we don't even know when the home video version is going to be coming up, but at least just have it available on digital.
so we can just watch it on the computer.
What I was going to do, we got like some portable DVD players for the kids for car trips, but these portable DVD players can also be used on their own. So we're going to bring that, and we're going to be packing like some of the DVDs. I intend on buying 2 copies of Godzilla X Kong. I'm going to buy the Blu-ray. Well, no, like, because Warner Brothers doesn't put the combo pack together anymore. So I'm buying the Blu-ray version and then the DVD version for travel. So then that way, like, I'll bring Godzilla X Kong along. We can watch it on that portable DVD player. And like I said, I'm bringing a bunch of other Godzilla Kaiju related movies as well, because we're going to be there for a while. So I thought, hey, like if Lincoln gets bored, or if we want something to do in the days leading up to G-Fest, we can watch like some movies.
Yeah. But we can discuss about that in the next couple of weeks when we finally get around to the whole pre-G-Fest.
And another thing.
But anyways, should we get to the meat and potatoes of this and rip the Band-Aid off so we don't have to talk about it again?
Well, we're talking about 1990, and it's a 69-minute movie, which is shorter than Zarkorr was. However, 10 minutes of that 69 minutes is opening credits.
First 2 minutes
really long.
Yeah, the first 2 minutes is credits, and then I think it was another 4 minutes of end credits. So that's a total.
It's basically an hour movie, more or less.
Yeah, 64 minutes total.
But yeah, again, part of it is because we've been so used to doing commentaries, it's hard for me to figure out where to start from here. But I have to say, I guess, let me talk about like when we first saw this, like over 20 years ago, approximately.
And I have no recollection of it.
I do, though. I remember we watched both Zarkorr and Kraa because I bought both of those movies on DVD at Suncoast back in the day.
Which I have no recollection of either. So there's probably a good reason why.
Men in Black did from your mind.
Yeah, completely.
But I remember Kraa being the better one of the two. And I have to say the actor, and I want to double check. I think it's R.L. McMurray. I want to double check.
Yeah, R.L. McMurray. You're talking about the one that played as Bobby?
Yes.
Yep.
I remember him being very good. And I will still say after this viewing, he's still the best actor in this film. Yes, some of the material is not great, and it at times makes him look garbage, but he's the best actor in this movie. In fact, he's the best actor out of both movies, the Kraa and Zarkorr films. Yeah. And I like this guy an awful lot. I'm going to start off with the positive. I like R.L. McMurray. He's a fantastic actor here, despite he's been given a not so great film. But
it's like when I saw him, the way he looked like at first with the big blonde hair and then the bushy beard and everything. And then I was a bit distracted doing something else. And then I come back and watching it. It's like, what the fuck is this bald guy? It's like, oh, that's actually him.
Wait a minute. You see him as a biker, and then the next moment you see him shaved. You miss like 45 minutes of the movie then. Jason basically in a roundabout way came out and admitted to me he really didn't pay that close attention to the movie when he watched it last night.
It's like, when you're at the scenes where you have Kraa going through destroying a facility like an industrial plant or whatever, and you have this one gal telling him to get up and stuff, you still see him with hair and all that stuff after the interrogation and all that. And it just seemed like not too long after you just see him completely bald without any hair or facial hair.
Yeah.
And I thought that he was a completely different person. And then I realized, oh, it's the same guy.
Well, and the gal that he co-stars along with, Teal Marchand, she looked familiar, but I can't place her.
Let me take a look
anywhere. Because I looked at her, I'm like, wow, she looks okay. Oh, she was in Kenan and Kel.
Okay.
I probably remember her from that.
Martin. Is that? Yeah, that's the TV show Martin.
Her role was woman. That's what it says here.
Okay.
By the way, this movie, for a very short period of time, spinned off a Planet Patrol series.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And I want to get around to this whole Space Patrol scene, like from the beginning and then towards the end.
Let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's do it, because that's how the movie opens, and more or less that's how it closes.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
What do you think of some of the oopsie doopsies that occur in both the beginning parts and the ending parts with the Space Patrol, where they have a green screen of this AI or whatever? I forget the specific name of the autopilot thing that controls a spaceship, and there were at least one, or I would say at max 3 instances throughout this entire movie when they are in the space police patrol ship here that they don't show that little thing, but they actually show the green screen part. And I'm just like, how could they even miss this part in post-production?
Well, when you were saying oopsie doopsies, I was asking myself, well, which oopsie doopsie?
That should at least be the very first one to think about.
Well, and there's so many things to talk about with this movie. The Planet Patrol. It's a thing in this movie. Let me say that I got an American Mighty Morphin Power Rangers vibe from a lot of this.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when, this is how creative this team was. Lord Doom was on screen in a Skeletor type mask. I still like it. I mean, I'm a huge Skeletor fan. I got a couple Skeletors hanging up over there. This Planet Patrol thing is ridiculously unnecessary because
Hello?
They don't come down to Earth and
There. I don't hear you.
What?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Oh.
Seems like your internet's kind of fucking up because you were freezing up there and then.
Well, I think it's like because my signal says I got a perfect strong signal. Maybe it's the software. But I have to say, too, this is a side thing. Did you happen to notice that the two male characters, basically teenagers, one's a captain somehow, and the new blonde gal, they
Named
both,
Curtis.
yeah, they both not only like were checking her out periodically over the course of the movie, they both, especially that blonde guy, was like really getting himself close to her and like kind of putting his arms around her at points and stuff.
Well, and then when they, I was about to say Dr. Doom, Lord Doom,
Should be Dr. Doom.
Yeah. when he launched a laser weapon at the Planet Patrol spaceship there and, you know, shaking everything. And then basically the blonde guy, he was kind of holding her and all that stuff. And then the way that they were getting up from the ground there. He was a little bit too touchy-feely.
See, that's the one I was thinking about the whole time. I'm like, hey, dude, like, like that's a little too much there. So, and it's so funny when I'm going to skip to the end fight, and I'm sure there's other things to talk about. Well, first of all, there were moments they were working on their keyboards, and you could tell in post the sound editor added extra keyboard sounds because the key touching didn't match up with what they were doing.
There's a lot of sound effects they can definitely tell throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. And dialogue is awful and cliched. Like when they get onto Lord Doom's ship or whatever, Lord Doom says to Captain, what's his name? Like, oh, I remember you when you were a child. Now you're captain. I'm like, well, you met him as a child 2 years ago. The kid is barely aged.
Yeah. But I would have to at least say the dialogue for this movie, I would say, is a bit better compared to Zarkorr.
Virtually everything is a little bit better.
And I would say, I think they probably, within a couple of years, they sort of learned their lesson with Zarkorr, especially with the amount of sequences or scenes in here, even though it doesn't feel like they were kind of doing the same thing, but it seemed like that there was more cuts in here and going back and forth. And obviously, the main thing with all of this is that they show more of Kraa than they did with Zarkorr here.
Yeah. I really enjoyed more Kraa sequences as well. It seemed like too the actual sets in which they made the miniatures on were a little bit larger than they did with Zarkorr.
And again, it seemed a little bit too cardboardy.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, they're not spectacular, but there was more of them, and it seemed like because the filming during the few Zarkorr sequences that they had, it seemed cramped. It seemed like the camera could barely move in any direction. Here, like you got like wider shots compared to Zarkorr, and I'm not saying they're like massive or I'm not saying that, but compared to Zarkorr, a lot of the Kraa shots not only were more frequent, but were wider shots. And I appreciated that they realized, oops, we're supposed to make monster movies, and the last one, the monster was barely in it. And so they made sure to put Kraa in it. And for the second straight time, they make a really good monster suit again. In fact, Kraa, I would even argue, is still, once again, just a little bit better than the Zarkorr suit.
I would say that, and along with Lord Doom. And then we're going to have to get around to this other thing, Morgyar. Although they did a pretty good thing. But then here's this. The very first thing that comes to my mind with this is that it felt like I was listening to a turtle Goomba-like wannabe that wants to be like Mario. That's how it came out to me.
Yeah. The Morgyar puppet is well executed and well made, honestly, even though, again, a lot of his talking sequences, again, it's very close and all that, which helps, especially when you have a limited budget and limited ability to pull something off. But I like his grotesqueness, but yet he's a very charming character, even though some could argue that maybe on some level he's kind of ridiculous because he develops an Italian accent.
Yeah.
He's still fun. Like, I have to say, he's either my favorite or second favorite character out of these two movies. He's in competition with Bobby.
But I would, like I said, at least one of the downsides to this is that it just felt like you were listening to Mario in this. It just felt a bit out of place in a way.
I totally forgot about that. I really did until it happened. I'm like, and then all of a sudden it came back to me. I'm going, oh, that's right. Like there's this weird creature that, you know, is supposed to help defeat Kraa. But
yeah. And then the other thing too is that, and they explain it here in the movie that he was going to be in Naples. You know, you got Naples, Italy, and then you got Naples somewhere in the
Florida.
United States, like Florida and all that. It's like, do they know exactly where? Because with Kraa, you don't even know exactly where he lands.
They said they needed to go to Naples, Italy, because there were some items to help them make their special gun or something like that there. But then the city got destroyed. I forget if it was like an earthquake or something. Like they brought up a newspaper and Naples, Italy conveniently got destroyed somehow. It just was a quick scene where they brought up, oh yeah, well, we can't do that now. And then that's why they ended up taking, was it Pleasant Haven's nuclear, whatever the town's name was, Pleasant Haven's nuclear reactor, and then made their special gun on top the rooftop there. That's why. Yeah. Because it just felt so strange because it felt like things were just a bit whacked when it came to the locations. Because it's like, are we supposed to, like, did Kraa land in Naples, Italy, or Florida? And then, like, if it was Florida, like, why the high buildings? Because they don't have high buildings. Because I was there about 10 years ago on vacation. And then in one of the scenes where Kraa appears next to a gas station, there's like, now it looked completely like California. I was like, what the heck is going on with the I think the movie
locations?
opens. I think it's similar to the opening of Zarkorr. I think the movie's supposed to take place like around Massachusetts, I want to say. Around that area.
If it was the case, it did not feel like Massachusetts. No. There, it looked like California.
Yeah, California.
And and around that gas station, where you see Kraa, and then him picking up this little giant size human doll. You have this semi coming in, honking at him, and it's like, why don't you just drive by? But no, he went straight in and completely blew up the gas station.
I thought that when it happened, I'm like, wait a minute, you're not even going to try to stop or anything. He's like,
or just try to keep going on the road there instead of just straight in, kamikaze the whole thing.
It's the obligatory stupid person moment in like a monster movie / horror movie. So that's what it is.
Yeah. And the other thing too, because we have the U.S. government, if they are the U.S. government, because they don't wear like those little French type of hats or anything like that for the military or something. But in one of the scenes, have you noticed when this head government guy was watching the TV or the news, did you notice that they literally reuse one of the news reels that was from Zarkorr, like the exact one that was shown?
I thought it looked familiar, but I wasn't totally sure.
Yeah, I know.
Did you find it funny though? Like early in the movie when Bobby's going into that bar, there's that cinema and half of the cinema marquee is cut off. Did you see the movie that was playing there?
I didn't quite catch it.
Zarkorr the Invader.
Oh, go figure.
Yep.
And also, speaking of that, what do you think of the choice of music?
Better.
Are you serious?
I love the ominous.
Not that one. When Bobby goes into the cafe, there is like, it just felt like really uplifting and like with bells and all that type of music.
I liked it because it was stupid and inappropriate for the scene. because like you and I, we've talked about this in years past when we were like, okay, eventually we got to cover these two movies. And we were even talking about it a little bit when we were getting ready to do both of these films here recently. We're like, these movies are stupid. Like, you got to go in with the expectation of knowing that you're going to get shit. Yeah. Okay. And on some level that might salvage it a little bit. I like it. And like I said, and I think you have even said it once or twice already on this show, this movie on almost all levels is a little bit better than Zarkorr. Yeah. I mean, it is as if the filmmakers and the producers of this film, which I'm sure are the exact same ones from Zarkorr, learned their lesson. They're like, okay, like, this is where we messed up last time or whatever. We didn't do as well. Let's fix it this time. And everything, even the acting, look, let me just say up front, the acting overall is still not great. It really isn't. But I still think it is overall better than Zarkorr. Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, obviously compared to Zarkorr, but when I was watching it, it felt, as far as the acting part, it felt a little bit bland overall. And then when it comes to the movie itself, I've got a little bit bored from time to time, and it felt I know that you admitted to that. A little dull at times too. And then in certain instances, in this one scene with Kraa, it felt like they slowed the film down a little too much, where he was kind of walking past one of the industrial plants there. It just felt like he was kind of going really, really slow. And also they were showing that particular shot a little too much there. They kind of went a little too long with that. Yeah. It's like, try to be at least a little bit consistent as far as the film speed with that, kind of like a lot of the Japanese Godzilla movies using the a rubber suit and everything. But a scene like that could be one of those scenes that is filler, because I think they realized even from the word go, their film probably was barely going to crack an hour without including credits. So I'm wondering if that was intentional, just be like, look, like, we got to make this thing. And here's the thing. You were saying you were bored. For me personally, I really wasn't. And part of it is the fact that, yeah, this is a shorter film. The only part I will say this is I got bored with the opening credits because they went on forever. But the actual movie itself, I enjoyed it because, like I said at the top of the show, R.L. McMurray is a fun actor. I really like him. From what I found, he hasn't done anything before or since this film. And yeah. I really like him. He's a very charming actor. And yeah, not everything he does in this film is great. Some of his line delivery is pretty stale at times. But part of the reason why I enjoyed this movie more is the short run time. So, like, things were moving a little bit faster than Zarkorr. But on top of that, too, R.L. McMurray, when he was on screen, was always fun to look at and watch. And then on top of that, too, even when he wasn't, there just was enough ridiculous, stupid shit going on that I couldn't turn away from. Mm-hmm. Again, kind of like that ending fight between Lord Doom and the Planet Patrol. It is so ridiculously awful that it's like, I have to watch this. Especially when the blonde guy and the black gal are chasing after that little guy. It's like they had him like within a second, but then it's like they just let him go and all that stuff. It's like, just get it over with. Well, and the fact that this Lord Doom's supposed to be like one of the mightiest villains in the galaxy, he gets his ass beat by a 15-year-old pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I want to point out, I don't know if you've seen this, with the visual effects, it's god awful to say the least. But better than Zarkorr. Yeah. However, when it came to, if you've seen
the one scene, I think it was towards the end, where they had one of the pyramids flying from space and going to Earth, and then I think it knocks Kraa out. Did you notice that in one of the shots where they had planet Earth, down below in the bottom center, they actually had a time code of the planet Earth visual effect, and then it just suddenly cut out. It was so obvious.
I didn't have to see that. I might have to rewatch this gem of a movie to find it.
You're gonna have to, because I saw that. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
There's so much to talk about. Like, where else? Oh, we have to talk about this, and I don't know if there's much more we can say other than this. Okay, so R.L. McMurray and what's the actress's name?
Oh, are you talking about the quote thing?
No.
Oh, I want to mention about the quote. It's like this Alma James gal that you're talking about, the one that worked at the cafe. She asks Bobby here, is like, "Where are you? Some kind of big brain or something?" And then he replies, "Yeah, big brain, big hair, big gut, big everything."
Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, I remember hearing that. I'm like, oh, he's backing on her.
Yeah.
But no, the thing I was talking about was when Bobby and Alma, they got their Tinker Toy or K'NEX laser gun set up. And yeah, it looks like it's made from elements of K'NEX toys back in the day on the rooftop of the power plant. And they're getting ready to try to fire it at Zarkorr. I mean, the Kraa, because Kraa's coming. And again, for movie conveniences, Kraa somehow magically like slows down and makes very little progress on his way towards the power plant. And then there's a power failure. And so then he goes running down into the depths of the nuclear power plant with a toolbox in tow. Guess what the problem is? A gigantic plug is unplugged from the rest of the power cord. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's like literally something you see from a cartoon show.
That's like this big. He's like, oh, now I got the problem. And he's getting ready to plug it in. But then that, FBI guy shows up, and then there's like a couple minutes of them struggling. And then he finally like plugs it in. Then the power comes on. He's like, for like a moment. Like he's like, oh, here's the problem. I'm like, you brought down a stupid toolbox thinking you got to like do some wire repair and shit. And all it is this stupid giant plug.
It's like literally Acme, like cartoon stuff.
At that moment, I actually was wondering if the filmmakers were making this film as a satire, because I'm like, you don't pull something like that unless you're trying to make fun of something.
It's sort of like the Asylum studio, where they make all the mockumentary or mockbusters and all that with Sharknado and Transmorphers or whatever it is. It's like trying to make a buck on the latest mega blockbuster movie and all that stuff. So to me, that's like satire, mockery, and stuff. So you can probably consider it that way. And like in one of the trivia stuff for this movie, that they were somewhat humorously trying to make this as a serious competitor to the Godzilla 98 movie.
Yeah,
especially with the beginning credits, how they made it all green and everything, just like the Godzilla logo, where they had like all that green plasma.
Well, in that scene I showed you right before we came on air here, a very decently long shot of the plain old Godzilla word type poster that was around quite a bit back in the day. Mm-hmm. They zoom out and then Kraa punches through it. Part of me's like, okay, are they like Toho and being petty and saying that Godzilla sucked and that this movie's better? Or are they saying our monster is better than yours? Because I don't know when this came out compared to the 98 film.
Yeah, well, let's see here. I'm not even sure if that It's like I'm on IMDb. Excuse me, I'm not even sure if they have the exact info when it came out besides the year. Okay. July 7th. So 2 months after Godzilla 98.
And then it makes you wonder, though, when was that scene filmed? Because there's got to be a post-production period.
With things like this, it shouldn't take too terribly long. I would say the longest thing would be like some of the sets, like the practical cityscape, and then the planet patrols scene, and as well as the Dr. Doom or Dark Planet thing, which I would say the more complex one would be the Planet Patrol setting there. But I know with some of these mockumentary or mockbuster stuff, they don't take too terribly long. I would say at least a month.
So, I mean, it could go either way, that they were trying to take a jab at the film or saying our monster was better than yours. Regardless, either they are punching up or they're being petty assholes like Toho was with like GMK and Final Wars.
It could go either way.
Well, yeah, because like you said, considering, this is a cheapo, I mean, it probably took no more than 3-4 months max to make, maybe
something of the sort.
Yeah. I got an important question for you.
Oh,
it's called Kraa, the sea monster.
Mm-hmm.
However, Kraa is the instrument of destruction for Lord Doom, who is an alien. And the only time Kraa's in the sea is when he's sent to Earth. He's not an original. Yes. And he's not like some sort of original sea creature like a Godzilla or Rhedosaurus or whatever. Why is this movie called Kraa the Sea Monster? Why not Kraa the Space Monster?
Just the way that he looks. I mean, he's got sort of the scales like a fish, looks like a fish.
Must be a fish
there, so that's probably why they sort of call him the sea monster, because he looks sort of like something that's from the sea.
Yeah, but he's a space monster.
The space sea monster. Spacey monster.
Spacey monster.
Yeah.
How do I take that? Like, yeah, Planet Patrol. That was some fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord Doom is a pussy. He really is.
And also, like, did he get the key? Like that the little guy gave him? It's like, was that some sort of key that he nabbed from one of the Planet Patrol guys there?
I think so. I think he pickpocketed one of them, I think.
Yeah, and it felt like this whole thing was going to be going on a little bit further, but with the amount of times, like, why even bother to doing that sort of scene or even put it in the final product of the film? Because, like, if you were going to plan on something like a sequel, for that matter, you should have just made another one few or so months after that. But I mean, you destroyed Kraa, so what are you going to do?
Although, let me just say
although you did say before the show here that they did spin off a Planet Patrol TV show for this, so that probably
it was very short-lived.
Yeah, so probably led into that.
Yeah, well, and I realized kind of early on in the movie, I think this movie, even more so than Zarkorr, this to me, I think, is a movie that is more aimed at a younger audience, because the Planet Patrol is made up of younger actors and actresses, and the way they talk and the way they go about their business, it not only reminded me of American Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but it also reminded me of early mid-90s kids' afternoon TV shows like Goosebumps. Mm-hmm. Those cheaply made, quick turnaround type of shows that looked exactly like this.
And it's funny that you bring up Goosebumps in this, because literally when I was watching the beginning credits for this and the way how it went and the music going along with it, it felt like I was literally watching a Goosebumps episode.
This, to me, on some level, felt more 90s than Zarkorr did, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Because Zarkorr was smack dab in the middle of the 90s. This was towards the tail end.
Yeah, Zarkorr, it felt like it was made in the early 90s instead of the mid-late 90s.
To me, Zarkorr, I don't know, like, this movie Kraa really did feel 90s. Like, it felt several years older than it should have been.
And consider this. Zarkorr was made in the same year that Galgameth was made. And we really praise the hell of Galgameth here. And just compare that movie to this movie. Not this movie, but Zarkorr, and then even though that they're made by different production companies.
I would argue, though, Monster Island Productions is definitely very much a company that is on level with like something that you and I, would do, where it's fans of a certain genre putting up enough money to get like licenses and rights put together for our studio names and what have you, and trademarks, and having just enough money to like make something like this. So we're probably talking several $100,000 perhaps. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not like cheap, but it's cheap comparatively speaking to like Hollywood and what have you. So I think that's what it is, because Monster Island Productions, as far as I'm aware of, these are the only two movies that they made. And I think they probably were gone after this one.
Yeah, because I took a look at the lineup of movies that they did. These were the only two. And then for Monster Island Entertainment, but as far as Full Moon Pictures, they at least had a list of movies, at least dating back to showing here probably like the late 70s at most.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
Did we hit on just about everything? Is there something else
There's really not much.
Although I will say this discussion is more substantive than Zarkorr, because movie actually, despite it being like 10 minutes shorter, there's more to it, interestingly enough. So,
yeah. Although it was a little bit duller and a bit bland in that regard, but
I disagree. I do.
But overall, it's a bit better than Zarkorr. And if it's the same crew that made Zarkorr 2 years prior, they definitely learned their lesson and try to figure out what to do and at least make some of the characters, quote unquote, interesting, but still the acting part, to me, in my opinion, was a bit bland in some cases and a bit dull. And then at least show much more of the monster compared to Zarkorr that they did. And then add some more sequences or scenes and try to cut back and forth instead of just like one long shot or sequence for that matter. Overall, Kraa is a bit better than Zarkorr. Overall, it's not going to get the GFA rating this time around. No, that's far from it. For me, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a D. I think that's probably the highest that I'm going to give it, there's still a lot of unnecessary things in here, some funny moments, and then some oopsie doopsies that we mentioned about earlier. And then also the choice of music and a lot of instances in here. It just does not match anything at all. The only one was that whole Kraa thing that you pretty much hear throughout the entire movie.
It's wonderful.
That one, I'd say that's probably the best one out of all of them, which is pretty much throughout the entire 64 minutes of the movie. D is the best fit for this movie.
Right. Not everyone who made this movie was involved with Zarkorr. Like, I think the directors are different and stuff, and some of the other crew. But Kraa, like I was saying like a little bit ago, I realized kind of within the first 5 to 10 minutes that this is a film that I think is geared more towards a younger audience. And I think kids who are into monster movies might get more out of this than most adults will. But with that said, like we've been saying periodically throughout this whole show, is that Kraa on every level is a little bit better than Zarkorr. And I know that's not saying much, but on some level it is, depending upon specifically what you're talking about. I like Kraa by and large. I'm not in love with it, but this is a movie where even the terrible parts, and for me, the worst parts of it are the Planet Patrol. They're so corny and stupid that they're fun to watch. I mean, it's one of those few times where you see something like that and you're like, I hate this and it's bad, but I like watching it at the same time. Like, because it's so stupid and just ridiculous.
This is terrible. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is one where I imagine myself, I'm like, if I had a party here with like 10 friends and we had some alcohol going, we would have a blast with this movie. Like, we would be laughing and enjoying ourselves and be like, hey, some of this isn't too bad. So, I like R.L. McMurray. I think he is the brightest star, literally and figuratively speaking. Literally? Out of the whole 2 movies we've covered here from Monster Island Productions. And the Kraa suit, fantastic. Definitely more scenes with the monster this time. Yeah, there's not overly spectacular, but there's something. Even much more than what you got out of Zarkorr. Mm-hmm. Magyar, ridiculous but fun. Acting is a mixed bag, but still better than what you got out of Zarkorr. Let's see, what else is there? Like, this is a movie that, because of its short run time, I'm going to recommend that most kaiju fans see, because this actually might be something that could be a guilty pleasure of someone's, and something that I think some people may like because it's so bad. For me, I'm giving this a C-.
Oh, wow.
I think this is close to being average, but it's entertaining. Like, it captured enough of my attention throughout its relatively short runtime to be like, I can go with this. A lot of shit makes no sense. A lot of shit's stupid, but it's entertaining. And I found myself bored pretty early on with Zarkorr. As we talked with Zarkorr, there were only like 3 or so different settings that movie took place in. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about how overly long some of those sequences were, such as in, what was his name? Johnny, whatever his name was, in his apartment, and then at the news studio. I mean, we were saying that some of that stuff was overly long, and some of the stuff was just like should have been trimmed. So,
or just not have at least 2 scenes almost literally taking up half the movie.
Right. I mean, Zarkorr is the definition of a bad movie. There are moments where it's hilariously entertaining in a bad way, but it is a bad movie. And so with Kraa, it's better. And I think it's a C- film. It's not great. And I think there's some kaiju fans that will find some level of enjoyment out of it.
And I think we're going to have to talk with some of the people here on IMDb, whoever is rating these movies, because from what I'm seeing here, they have Zarkorr at a 3.7 and then Kraa at 3.5. That shit isn't. That shit ain't happening here.
Kraa is a better movie.
Yeah, it should at least be. You should switch those two at least.
Kraa in every conceivable. We'll see here on Letterboxd. Kraa is at a 2.9, 2.8. Okay, so they're more or less on. That's bullshit. Like I haven't put my rating down yet for Kraa. Should I give it 4 on Letterboxd?
That's totally up to you.
That's funny. I think on Letterboxd, a C- is technically like a 2. I'm going to give it a 2.5 on Letterboxd just because they got a 5-star rating system. I'm going to say it's average on Letterboxd. I'm going to hit that like thing too. Because look, I'm not, this is a bad movie in a lot of respects, but Monster Island Productions learned a lot from Zarkorr, and I will give them all the props in the world for that, because there are some movie studios that will do a trilogy or whatever, a batch of films that are the same and are sequels of each other, but really either take forever to learn their mistakes or don't learn at all. These guys within a 2-year span learned a lot, and they did make a better product. Mm-hmm. If I was to go and buy any one of these 2 movies we've covered over the last couple of weeks, it would be Kraa, because Kraa is a better film. Yes, It's terrible in many respects. I mean, I will take. Although, would I watch this one over Shin Godzilla?
Oh no!
You know what? I would. I would. It's more entertaining than Shin Godzilla. It's barely an hour, and I would watch this over Shin Godzilla. This is better than all but Shin Godzilla in the Godzilla universe.
How about either Zarkorr, between Zarkorr and Shin Godzilla?
Shin. Yes. No contest.
I thought you were going to think long and hard on that one.
Zarkorr has some interesting, wonderful moments, but there aren't enough of those to really put it over the top against another shitty movie like Shin Godzilla. I stepped in shit. You look down at Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
Ew. So, what are we doing now, Jason?
I think next week, since we're going to be getting closer to G-Fest, I think hopefully we should be getting the official schedule by around the time when we do the next podcast recording.
Our next one's going to be either the 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be right around that time when we do it. So hopefully, I would say at least count on us doing a pre-G-Fest show.
If not, let's have a backup though. Didn't we do Planet of Dinosaurs for a discussion? I think no, we just did a commentary. I think.
It's I know we've done Planet of Dinosaurs.
We did a discussion on that too.
Let me see here. Let me bring up Spotify here. Let's see here. Okay, there's us. Gonna have to probably scroll down a bit. Because I know we only did it one time. Yeah, it was just a commentary.
Okay, so there's that. There's that. I mean, there's a lot, but my concern is your access to some of these.
Because I think Planet of Dinosaurs, that was an Amazon thing, I believe.
I own 2 DVDs of it, so I don't have that issue. But
Planet of Dinosaurs. Yeah, that is a Amazon Prime Video
for free.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want to do that as a backup?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay, so if the schedule's not out, we'll do Planet of Dinosaurs as a discussion.
Okay.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope you actually enjoyed this one more than Zarkorr. Seriously, though, check out Kraa. I think some of you out there may find it entertaining in a it's so bad it's good kind of way. It's short. It's a 69-minute movie with credits, but without the credits, like Jason said, it's 64 or something like that.
64.
It doesn't take a whole lot of your time. And I think that's one of the things that makes it good is that it's short. It's not like Zarkorr where it's like,
yeah, just eating away at your life.
Yeah. So definitely, I would recommend checking it out. I think there are some of you Kaiju fans out there. I'm willing to bet it's about 50-50 that may actually like it enough. So check it out. So thank you so much. We'll see you here in a couple weeks, either for the discussion of the GFest schedule, or we will be discussing Planet of Dinosaurs, a personal favorite of mine.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.